Great.
Yep. Bingo. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. Well, yeah. So everyone who's going to pick up now is going to miss the first part of this. Sorry. Yeah. But yeah, what we're doing, I guess, to catch everyone up, just kind of, I was sharing my motivations, which I guess for the sake of sharing with everyone at the very end of this, and I can let everyone go before I sign off and close the recording. I'll repeat what I said, my prefatory remarks. But what we're doing now, kind of just going around the room, seeing, why everyone's interested in what they're doing here. Susan was just sharing, she's kind of split between doing this group project and possibly your own individual project on California Indians. And I was saying how, yeah, I very much want this project to work for everyone. Yeah, and that's just the purpose of this information session, is just to give you an idea of what we're doing here. Yeah, Kim and or Lisa, who would like to jump in here?
I'm happy to jump in. I really wish this class was like a double semester. I really think maybe a Native American Genocide Part 2 should really be a section, because it's I think this is the class that I've been waiting for. I haven't even been at Gratz a year, but this is the class that I've really wanted to take. Because it seems that we're so ignorant of our own history, and I just really find it's important. And I was also torn even before I took this class. I thought, I'm originally from Connecticut, and so I wanted to focus my efforts on Connecticut tribes. And in my first course with you, Jeff, I covered a bit with the Pequot War. And even in my last class with you, I covered colonialism and genocide. And so I think that really kind of prepared me for what we were going to be talking about in this class. And even now living in Germany, Germans have a very strange affinity for the cowboy and Indian
Karl May
paradigm.
Yeah, sure.
It's very, yes, the Adventures of Winnetou are in every cinema. There are festivals, there are Native American festivals in some parts of the country that I think are just stereotypical things that we see. That I live around the corner from the old Western Saloon restaurant that has a caricature statue of a cowboy who looks really friendly, and he's brightly, bright colors and the cowboy hat. And around the corner, there's the Native American statue, holding onto dynamite with his feather headdress. And it drives me nuts every time I walk by it. But it's these things that I am interested in. At the same time, I think from an academic point of view, I don't know how many group projects there will be throughout my time at Gratz. And I think this is a really good way to see how scholars can work on these things together, how they contribute to certain things, how they agree to information that's included or excluded. And I think that process is really important. And I think also the fact that we're all remote, that we're all doing individual projects throughout our entire program here, I think it's really important that we learn how to collaborate. And so I'm not familiar with this part of history, and I'm just between that and being able to work with people. I think that's why I'm more focused on doing a group project.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Lisa.
Well, I'm kind of in line with Kimberly. When I first read about this, I initially thought, no way on God's green earth I want to do this. It looked really intimidating, but then also I was immensely curious, like, what would this look like? And in all of my other courses at Gratz, I've never been offered a group project. And so I just thought, this is really exciting. This is, I want to step out of my comfort zone and do something like this. And what would it look like? And if I fail miserably, at least I have the experience. But it's just very exciting. Initially, I wanted to do something on Turtle Mountain Ojibwe because my father's mother was a Turtle Mountain Ojibwe woman, and I don't know anything about it. So I thought, that would be not selfish, but just fulfilling a deep curiosity. But then when this came up, I thought, oh gosh, when am I gonna have this opportunity again? So that was my motivation.
Yeah. Well, if we will fail, if anyone fails, we will fail together, which I don't think we will, even by embarking on this, you know. But I'll repeat for the recorded message for everyone. This is something I said before, you know, that I kind of just sort of came up with this project sort of like literally a week before class started, and it was just sort of, I don't know, just sort of, and I've never done anything like this myself. So as a teacher, so kind of feeling this out. So with that said, what I'm going to do is go ahead and share screen and kind of show you all what I have in mind. Let me go to the right page here. Okay, you should be able to see. Can you all see my browser?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to start at the. I'm going to go back to the first page, and I'm sorry, I have to get out of. I'm in like the teacher mode. I can get into student view. Okay, I'm just going to show you all kind of like, you know, this is homepage where we, you know, how to get to where we're going. Okay, for this annotated outline. There's multiple ways you can get there. The easiest way, what I'm going to do under each week's module. So for example, here we're under week 3. Yeah, I'm just, for each week's module, I'm just putting a link down here at the bottom for annotated outline, right? This is the easiest way to get there. There's other ways of like you dig through the assignments tab, and there's multiple ways to get here, but this is gonna be the easiest one on your week-to-week basis. All right, so this is what we're going to be working on. Sorry, let me mess with my screens here. Right. Yeah, for you guys, you'll be able to edit this tab. You just click on it, you edit it, and it's just we work in the usual text box that we do for, you know, discussion forums. This is what we're working on, right? And this is, you'll be able to get into, you know, to this part, this portal essentially, input your stuff, you know, hello. All right, and you know, whenever you're done, you just you go down and you save it, and you know, that's it, right? And theoretically, yeah, we should all be able to see it, right? Okay. Well, before I even get into like the actual input of what you're going to do in terms of inputting notes, let me show you the source material first, okay? Before I even get to all of this, down here at the bottom, here are the primary and secondary sources that we're working with as a starting point. And, you know, in case you all haven't noticed from the way I've organized my syllabus, my approach to teaching at this level, like, is just to like inundate students with materials, because there's so much stuff out there. I mean, Susan, you're talking about the bibliography that you've constructed for California, you know, I mean, even in this literature that, you know, there's not a huge literature in Native American genocide, but there's a ton of stuff out there, right? So that tends to be my strategy. I sort of inundate with materials, and then we can individually as researchers sort of parse through the ones that we want to work with. I will say before we move on, now that I'm talking about this, you know, we in terms of primary sources, I think Ben Franklin has got a classic account. I don't know how long this is. It's sort of semi-long. It's, you know, but it's also like late 18th century language, so it kind of takes some time to penetrate a little bit. That's not necessarily going to be my starting point, I don't think. I'm actually right now, I'm starting to read this book here. And I'll say real quick, the PDF that I've constructed for this file is actually missing a segment. So I'll have to go back and correct that. But I'm reading this book right now. This is sort of my entry point for my own research into this topic. And yeah, I think it covers pretty much all the ground that we need. So, you know, I think if you are interested, that'd be a good place. But I think these shorter articles may also be a good entry point. Haven't read any of these yet, so I can't say for sure, but just based on the titles, yeah, this top one looks to be promising, I think. Down here, Smolinski, this one, yeah. Yeah, Alden Vaughn, like these articles down here are dated. But Alden Vaughn is like, yeah, he's a very famous Americanist historian that sort of like predates the new Indian historiography that we're kind of working from. So yeah, this is going to be dated, but could nevertheless find good information here. So in terms of starting points, this is what I would recommend checking out. Yeah, Ingalls, we got Kenny here. Oh, sorry, Kenny, Smolinski, Vaughn. These were probably the best secondary sources. But you know what? You click through. Yeah, and I should also say some of these I'm adding because I'm already sort of working ahead on the annotated bibliography. And this is also how we're kind of citing our material. So I'm like, again, I'm being very inclusive here. So yeah, you definitely, from your perspective, you're going to want to sift through the duds, so to speak, and just try and, just sort of locate the ones. You're just going to be working, realistically, you're going to be working from, one or two, maybe three secondary sources for this project. And it doesn't matter if you're reading something that someone else is reading, but this is how we're going to maybe divide responsibilities. It's just sort of, we're going to all sort of help digest the literature. Yeah, so I would recommend starting with those secondary sources before we even get to Ben Franklin. This other one is another important primary source. I mean, we'll try to get to it. I don't know, we'll see. But this is the actual perpetrators' voices. Yeah, Digital Paxton is I don't know. All right, here we go. There's a lot of stuff here that's going to be pertaining to primary sources and all the pamphlets that were written in the context of the Paxton boys. Yeah, again, this may be a little bit further down the road in terms of this research project. I don't think we should start here, but it is a fun website to explore. There are other sources in this website besides the primary sources. Definitely worth exploring. It's a great internet source, especially for teachers. And that's something I want to explore as part of this project as well, or those pedagogical opportunities, I guess. How can we teach about this? Okay. So yeah, that's all I have to say about these are the sources we're working from. And this would be your starting point in terms of if you're going to be part of this group project, this is how you're going to start. You're going to select one of these secondary sources. Or, I mean, hey, if you're up for it, if you want to dive right in and start with Ben Franklin, I mean, the starting point is up to you, frankly. I mean, I'll give you my recommendations, but it's your initiative about how you want to proceed in terms of what to read. But whatever you read in any of this stuff, you'll be able to find information that you can then input here, which is what I want to talk about now. But before I do that, any questions about starting point? This is where you're going to start with these sources here. Is that clear? Yeah, Lisa.
So are you dividing up, like whoever's going to participate in this project, are you dividing up, what was that other screen you just had on?
Like up here?
Right, yeah, right there.
No,
so
honestly,
are you saying,
I don't think so, because I think you'll be able to, all these secondary sources are covering points that touch upon all of this, right?
Okay.
So rather than us rather than dividing responsibilities this way, right, in terms of, someone's going to do this and someone's going to do that,
right,
we're going to divide responsibility. Well, another way we could do this is divide responsibility this way, although I'm not even sure if we're going to do it like that. Like I just said, I think I'm going to kind of leave it to you all, sort of your own initiative. And I think even if some of us read the same sources, we're all kind of coming at it from different angles. We're going to be pulling out different things we'll find important, so we'll have different takes on it. But that's more along the lines of dividing responsibility in terms of what we're reading. And like, if this was a real long-term group project, that's how we would organize it. We would divide responsibilities this way. And then we would all, and that's the idea, we're all going to contribute. We're all going to contribute to inputting notes under these topics here, or these categories.
And then all the way down to number 14, let's say, when does that have to be done?
Oh yeah, so all right, like in terms of like a due date for this part of the project.
Yeah.
All right, this project, so this part of the project does not end. I guess it will technically end because we're going to lose access to input. Like, I think just the way Canvas is organized at the end of the semester,
Right.
whatever we're left with is what we have. But
okay, so it's ongoing, sort of.
I mean, I would love, and I'll try and talk to administration. I mean, this could honestly work on a Google Doc or something. Like, I'm sure Outlook has something that we can use, like maybe we can transfer all this over. But the idea here, and this is how I approach this type of this template, this research
Mhm.
template, if you will, is an ongoing organic sort of
I see.
platform, if you will, just for
Mhm.
organizing notes, you know. The idea being that like I would take this type of document and, you know, it could just serve as, you know, my notes for writing an essay, you know. But as far as we're concerned, as far as due dates for this part of the group project, yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, like just work on it till the end of the semester, you know, and then you do as much as you do what you can, you know. As far as your responsibilities for this assignment, it's the personal paper, right? The reflection paper, uh, which, yeah, as I explained in the syllabus, it's due at the same time at the very end of the semester, the end of week 8. Although I'm sure I'll give an extension at the time. We'll when we get closer to that, we'll talk about specific due dates.
Do you know if the items in the bibliography will answer all of the items in the outline?
Well, not necessarily, because like I said, this is all new to me as well. I'm just this is a place for me to, and that brings up my other point. In the same way that this document as a whole is this sort of ongoing organic process, that's especially true for building the bibliography, which we're going to ideally expand. And I'll take primary responsibility for uploading stuff, finding stuff, and uploading stuff. Although if you all come across any sources, you'll be able to, yeah, share it here. Yeah, so, but to answer your question, I can't say for certain, no. I think it'll give us a good start for sure. You know, but there may be some gaps. Yeah, absolutely. Which is another part of like using this type of research template, is that it does kind of show you as a researcher, you know, what the literature is covering and what gaps there may be or whatever. But yeah, to answer your question, no, I can't say for certain. But we will, if we do identify gaps, the goal is we will find sources to fill those gaps and then add them here as we come across them. Yeah. Yeah, so I can explain more about, let me get back into edit mode, more about this template. Which, yeah, like I said, I use this in my own research. I use this in other classes. My Genocide in the Modern World class, I use the basis for an assignment. I got this from Mark Levine as a genocide historian who's written this amazing multi-volume world history of genocide. And this is how he does it. And Mark Levine is like probably my favorite scholar in the field. He's amazing. And if he does it, that's how I'm going to do it, basically. That's how I approached all of this. It's just a great way to organize stuff. There's no right way to do this, right? This is kind of more just sort of follow your intuition, which has always been fine for me because I've always done this type of assignment or this type of project on my own. You know, I'm just writing notes for myself, right? Like, you know, no one else was going to read it. But like I kind of suggested a moment ago, you know, even if we're reading the same sources, we may have different takes and we're going to find different points of significance. You know, as far as I'm concerned, whatever you find significant, you throw it in here, you know. Better to be more inclusive. You know, like the whole idea is, you know, this is a basis for writing an essay down the road. You can be a little bit, you know, more parsimonious and selective with what you want to say. But here, you know, you just throw it all out there, right?
Would excuse me, would
Yeah,
we
please.
identify what we insert with our initials, or do we just put it in?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, good.
Can I just
point.
say this as a 5th grade teacher? We would color code.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. You can do that actually. That's a great idea. Yeah, for example, and what we can do actually, we could even do a color code, you know, so Jeff can be, for example, I'll write and do we want to do highlight or I think so you can do highlight, you can highlight the text, or you can do
I think tech.
the type. Yeah, so I'll do like, for example, green. I don't
Yeah.
know. Oh, that's okay, that's highlight. You know, but we play around, and that's another thing I want to say real. Ooh, that doesn't look good at all. Oh, I have to get rid of the.
You have to take the highlight off.
Exactly. Oh, crap, the meeting's ending in 10 minutes. Yeah, I don't have, Gratz doesn't afford us the fancy Zoom. All right. I'll say real quick with formatting and stuff, we can always fix mistakes, you know, as long as we don't delete stuff, right? But you play around with stuff, it doesn't matter. There are no rules here, okay? But this is a great system. Yeah, maybe we'll go in and use color-coded text, and that's a great way to assess contributions. You know, in terms of citing, first of all, I'll say real quick, you know, a lot of this is going to be intuitive, right? Just obviously timeline, right? Geographic range, yeah, you play around with it. You know, I kind of have, and you'll see it here, like I sort of use a scope approach, you know, in terms of like, you know, the specifically here's where it happened, right? And then I kind of zoom out and kind of give the bigger picture. I kind of use that type of multi-level sort of way of approaching a lot of these various categories, right? That's just kind of the way I do it. You know, there doesn't have to be a rhyme or a reason. We can kind of play around with, like I said, this is an organic thing. So don't overthink things, right? If you just have a point, just throw it in there. You know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you put it at first. We'll figure it out later, you know. That's the thing. We are all co-editors here. Yeah,
Can I just clarify one thing?
please.
Okay, so in this project, we're doing the outline and then a reflection paper due at the end of week 8, and that
Correct.
is what we're turning in, other than the module posts.
Correct. That's it. Yeah.
Okay.
As far as the
Okay.
final assignment is concerned, if you're doing this, yeah, this is a 2-part project, if you will, with the group
Okay.
aspect, and then yes, the final paper.
Okay.
And
Thank
like
you.
I said, there's no target how many things you have to contribute. I mean, yeah, like obviously if you don't contribute at all, like I guess I'll have to penalize whatever. I mean, but like there's no target number of what you need to contribute, you know. I don't know. I'm kind of, that part of my assessment will sort of be more how I kind of gauge your relative contribution, which I have no expectations, frankly. So I don't know. But yes, to answer your question, those are the 2 parts here. And like I say, don't overthink it, you know, just be inclusive. Most of these are going to be self-explanatory. Maybe this one, number 4 and 5, I do want to clarify. So yeah, how were the Indians, how were these Indians identified by the perpetrators, right? From like this outsider's perspective versus how did these Indians see themselves, right? And they saw themselves in many different ways, of course. Misspelled that. Yeah, so that's kind of, that's the difference there. I mean, hopefully the rest of these, yeah, risk factors and triggers, maybe I can talk more about that later on. If you do decide to do this project, this will be maybe followed up with another Zoom call, maybe in a couple weeks, maybe, and I can talk more about that, about these 2 here. So, I mean, apart from whatever may or may not be self-evident for the time being, you know, don't worry about that too much, but we'll circle back to that. I mean, the rest of these should be relatively self-evident, but yeah, I think that's the idea. I don't know. I don't know if I have anything else to say. Like, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I have no expectations here. Any of our mistakes can be corrected as long as we don't delete. So just don't. Oh yeah. One last thing in terms of citations. Right. I don't like using, I mean, I don't know, the APA format. I'm kind of like, it's not how I was raised, I guess, intellectually. But there's no way to do footnotes or endnotes, or at least I haven't figured that out, unless you all do. So the way around that, I'm just kind of using an APA type of system, right? Of like if I'm making a point that I do want to trace back, and like you'll see here, like I do include quotes in my notes. Yeah, I use, you know, sort of a bare nuts version of the APA format of citing, you know, so last name, year, and the page number, which then corresponds down here, right? You know, just kind of citing things this way. That's the way I'm kind of working it now. I mean, I am open to, as you know, working with you all as co-editors on this document, you know, we can find ways to make this, I would love to make this look as elegant and as easy as possible to digest, you know. So we can kind of figure all that out. But important point being that yes, citations are important. You don't need them for every single point. You know, it's not like when you're writing a paper, I mean, you don't have to cite every single sentence, right? You use your discretion about what to cite, especially if you're quoting, and I encourage the use of quotes. You know, sometimes when I use quotes, and I'll talk more in a future Zoom, we can talk more about formatting in terms of doing these indentations and whatever. Don't worry about that now. Like I say, just write stuff. We'll figure all that out later. But yeah, in terms of citations, if you're quoting, definitely cite it. If you're paraphrasing, it's better to be, again, more inclusive, but you don't have to cite everything, right? Especially for, you know, like common information that is, you know, can be generally obtained and is not specific to any one, you know, particular source. If it's just general knowledge or it's such a general point of information, you don't have to cite it. Okay, I think that's it. I think that's all I have to say. Any final questions as we have less than 4 minutes left on the timer here?
I'm wondering, there's only, you know, so many items in the template.
Mhm.
If they begin to be filled up, you know, what's going to be left to, you know, if someone goes ahead and fills them all up, what's going to be left for the next person?
I don't think that you could ever fill this up.
Ever?
I don't know if there are ever any limits. I think, you know, it's really a question of like, you know, how general versus how specific, you know. I mean, like we're going to start with mostly some generalities, and we're trying to drill down in some specifics, but I mean, you could endlessly build context by reading more and more and adding to this picture. Yeah, I mean, like most research projects, you know, it's yeah, I mean, practically, of course, there has to be an endpoint, you know, and especially if you're writing a dissertation, like, yeah, I mean, you know, but yeah, I mean, theoretically, and that's why people can spend forever, decades writing books, you know, because this could, in theory, go on for a long time, I guess, you know. So yeah, I don't think there's any endpoint here that will have reached the final point of, well, we've gotten all, we can say that we've gotten all that we need for our immediate purposes. And we'll, as you know, that may kind of change over time. But yeah, as far as, you know, the project is concerned, yeah, this will forever, like I said, this is an ongoing organic project that has no endpoint. Although I did say, I'm not sure if I put this on before or after the recording. I mean, I would love for this group project to go beyond this course and maybe have some research output, which we can talk about. But yeah, I mean, in theory, the idea is like, we wouldn't run into that problem of, you know, if someone fills up one thing and that's, yeah, I mean, for example, wider context, oh my God, you could spend so much time unpacking all of that. Yeah, that's a good question though.
You could put number 15 miscellaneous.
But you know, and there might, yeah, that's another thing as far as the conceptual organization of this template, you know, not hard and fast. We can adjust that as well. And as co-editors in this project, you know, you would have that capacity, and we'll confer as we do things. You know, we'll primarily talk. I'll set up a group. I'll set up a discussion forum thing on Canvas, and then maybe that'll be our primary means of sending messages. This way, everyone can see. But yeah, I mean, you'll have, as co-editors, you have that capacity to do that. Yeah, any other questions?
I'm in.
Okay. Oh, awesome. All right. Well, good. Yeah, I mean, and Susan, like I said, you have a week to decide, you know.
Yeah.
We're giving that extension for everyone to the end of week 4. So
Yeah, I'll ruminate. I'll see which project looks, you know, more interesting
very good. Yeah.
or attainable, really.
Yeah.
I'll see, because I've
Yeah.
already done all of this work on California.
Yeah.
You know, it's just sitting right here.
Yeah. Well, I don't have the timer. It's less than a minute, so it may imminently be cutting off here. So yeah, thank you everyone for showing up. I'm gonna just pick up this conversation on Canvas on the discussion forum. Kim, if you want to
I'm
chime
in too.
You're in too. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, good. And to everyone else who wasn't here,